Hello there. Here we are with issue 32 of Build the Millennium Falcon. So this one should be interesting. So we'll just kind of give a quick, brief overview. So we have the modified Punwarka 116 class sloop, and this is the sail barge thing that Dooku uses. So that's pretty interesting. The really interesting thing about this, and I'll get into it more when we review this is actually a concept that NASA and scientists and whatnot are looking at for space flight to, conserve energy and that kind of stuff. I find that interesting. So there's that. Then we have the history of Mandalore, and this is important because we're talking about the Mandalorian, or not talking about it, but the Mandalorian season 2 is well underway, and so for those that want to know a little bit about Mandalore, here you go. There's your chance. And then under the Secrets of Spaceflight, we have the sublight engines, so that's pretty cool. We talked about the hyperdrive, so now we get to talk about the sublight engines. And so that should be quite interesting. And here we are with the important part. So let's look at the parts that we have, and not to break the fourth wall, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've previewed this. I preview pretty much all the issues, so I know what's going on and what's coming up, so I can kind of plan things. And I don't like to be surprised and all that kind of stuff. So we have our framework. So this is the BF 30, I think. Is that what it's supposed to be? BF 39. That could be a 9. Regardless, that's the size that fits. We have these things here. I think there was only supposed to be 4, and this one's got like a bunch. So I probably grabbed the wrong little package. We can grab the right one. Not that it's going to matter. We have this plating here, so that's pretty cool. And I think we're probably going to end up doing something with that pretty soon. And then we have this piece here, which is known as a thrust vector plate. So we have the thrust vector plate, and these are called actuators. So like I said, I'll have to get the right ones because we're only supposed to have 4, so we'll get those. But let me break this down for you. So it's important for you guys to understand. So this is going to need to be put together in a specific order. So as you can see here in this picture, there's this red spot underneath here. So these 2 plates right here are painted red, which means I need to paint this red before I put these actuators on. Okay. Also, these actuators, 3 of them have gray on them on the outside part, so those will need to be painted as well. I can't just paint this red because I need to paint the entire base coat first before I paint this red. And that is important because I'm not going to paint the base coat until I get the entire thing assembled, which means this will not get painted, the base coat, and these thrust actuators will not get attached until the whole thing is getting put together. So there's nothing that's going to be done with this right now. That's important. What I am going to do in this issue is I'll get the correct ones for this. I can't believe I just grabbed these ones, but I'll grab the right ones for this. I'll get these. I will paint these with the base color, and I will paint the ones that have the gray on them. And one of the things I'm going to have to look for is there's supposed to be some reference stuff that came with this, or either that or there's a link for the reference stuff. I'm going to have to go pull those down so I can make sure I know which one of these gets painted, maybe colors and all that kind of stuff, so I can get these painted properly. But I will do the base color on these. So first we'll prime these. We'll do the base color, and then I'll paint these arms the appropriate color as well, the ends here. So that will be in this issue. because that's not going to be very much, I'm going to do this. This is something that I talked about doing off camera for quite a while, and one of the things that we talked about was how this part here is incorrect. So this part goes right down the middle, and this whole thing needs to be turned so that this part is what goes right there. So um, supposedly it's only a 5-minute thing. What you're supposed to do, and we'll get into this after we do all these actuators, is you take your knife, and you don't want to use a especially new one, and you're going to use the back part, and you're just going to scrape along here, and you're going to clean this out and break all the glue loose. And it's going to take you several passes to go through here, and you're just going to go through here until you get through a bunch of the glue. And then what you're going to do after you do that is you're going to take a hammer and a small screwdriver, and you're just going to tap that until that glue breaks free. So the good thing is I've got a second one of these from my brother, so if I happen to damage this, I've got another one to try it with. But from what I understand, it's not terribly difficult. So we're going to do that. We're going to get this part broken out and then repositioned and glued back in so it's correct. So this part will be ready to go. So we're going to do that. And this is from like issue 1 or 2. So we're going to do some of that off-camera stuff. And I'll probably bring in, there's been a slew of off-camera stuff that I was planning on doing. And I'll probably bring those in on some of these parts where there's little to nothing that I want to be doing. So I want to try to have a little bit to show in each episode and each issue. So that's important. We will be showing how to add optional paint detailing in to the thrust vector plates at a later stage. So it's funny, they're talking about they're going to show you how to add that optional paint detailing at a later stage, but they're having you glue these on. And so the problem is you can't glue these on and then paint this part underneath, because these arms go over the top of it and you'd have to get paint underneath, and that's just no bueno. So let me go ahead and get all of that stuff pulled down. I'll get these out, the correct ones. I'll get them cleaned, and then I'll probably show you me painting these. Should go fairly quick since the primer is going to be fast, obviously, and then we'll do the base color, which is just a rattle can, and then we will do the gray as well. So, and that will be using airbrush. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, welcome back. So here we are. We have them painted. You probably can't really tell the difference. So I'm going to bring in this piece here. And now you can really see the difference on what that's going to look like. Now keep in mind, this entire piece and this entire ship is going to be painted with this color. So let's get this kind of more over so you can really sticks out. So this entire piece and the entire ship is going to be painted with this base color first. So what I did was, and you saw, I painted all of these with that base color. And so all of these have been painted. Also, what I did was I numbered all of these. And the reason why I numbered these, and I believe there's 13, don't quote me on that. I'll find out after I go through and get them all out. But I was looking at images of the actual model, and I counted, and the best I could see was it looked like there was 13. So I numbered these 10 through 13. So that way I can get them put in the proper order. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because this one here, no, not this one. I think it's this one. This one here is actually going to get some gray here. And actually, let me show you the image that I'm basing this off of, and that's here. And so you can see there's the red underneath, and then this part here is gray. And so that's what I'm going to have to do. And because of that, I'm not going to paint this red first. Um, I want to paint the entire ship with the base color first, and then I'll come back and I'll paint these spots red or gray or yellow or whatever they are. I'll paint them after the fact, after I do the base color. So that's going to be very important that I get the base color first. That starts everything at an even spot, and that is because these pieces are not all the same color. So if we bring in this here, you can see the two variations there. Uh, Maybe you can. I can see them anyway. There's definitely two distinct variations. This one is slightly darker than this one. So because of that, that's why you want to do the base color first and then come back and paint everything up. So also in that image, you can notice that this piece here, that lets you know which side you're on. And then you'll be able to go from there. So, matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you kind of where I was getting these images and what I was basing that off of, because there was a little bit of confusion on that. Let me bounce over to show you that real quick. Okay, so here's where the dilemma comes into play. So this is from the 32-inch Millennium Falcon studio model, meaning this is the actual model that they used in Empire Strikes Back. Okay, so this is what I'm using for all of my reference photos, and I've pulled down several pieces or several images that hopefully will tell me what I need to know. So if we look at some of these, let's pull these up. So the first one we're going to look at is we'll look at the middle thrusters, and this isn't really going to tell us a whole lot. This isn't really part of our section, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and look at the port bottom. And now this is a little slightly confusing because I think this is actually the wrong side. Somehow I think this image got flipped because you'll notice there's a dark gray, a light, a dark gray, and then this kind of lighter gray, right? And then if we look on this side, this is the port side, and this is the same pieces, okay? However, if we look on this piece, we are seeing just base color, the dark gray, base color, and base color. So um, you'll notice this piece here matches, if you look at this angle and all that, that matches the piece that that came with this issue, right? So let me show you that piece when we come back from here. Um, but the interesting thing is, if you look at this, this also matches the piece that I've got, but you'll notice that these are different. So, however, I've seen several people that had them painted like this. So this is very um, evident looking at this image. This is very evident of two things. This is why I need to do these pieces separately, because you'll notice this gray or this red needs to be underneath this piece. And since I am not going to paint this red until after I've painted the base color on the entire ship, I can't put this piece on yet because I can't do the red underneath it until that gets done. So this piece is not going to be painted. But the important part about this is this color here on this. So this blade, or whatever you want to call it, this is the actuator. So this part of the actuator is a dark gray, or medium, not really dark gray, it's more of a medium gray. And so that's the color I'm looking to use. And so if we come back out, you can see that better. Um, but like I said, there's uh, many other pieces in here that show a lot of these. So like this one here kind of shows how these pieces are oriented. Um, this this image here also shows that, and that's why I say that the one that we saw before was somehow flipped. Somehow that image got flipped, and that was causing a lot of confusion. Um, but I'm glad that I was finally able to figure that out. There's more pieces that show it the other way around than, because this is essentially that piece there, right? This is the piece that we're talking about. So there's more that show it this way than that one image that showed it the other way. So I'm glad that I was finally able to get that figured out and orientated. But that allows me to figure out what colors I need. And with that, we can now go look at what we have going on with the color samples. So let's go over to the color samples and have a look. Okay, so there you go. So again, with that little bit of confusion, the one image makes it look like this is completely different. And so that took me quite a while to figure that out. And actually, I'm going to count that research time as time spent on this issue. So the amount of time on this issue will be a lot higher than the record time. Um, but so anyway, these are going to go on here, and we need to paint this one here. I believe, if I recall already, how quickly I forget. But we're going to paint this one here gray, and so I needed to figure out which gray. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, I painted a test patch. So this, if you guys recall, clear back at the beginning, I went to put this on the framework, and this was one of the pieces that came in early on. And I went to put this on the framework, and this little nubbin right here was missing. So you notice that one's there. This one was missing. So I'm going to use my brother's that his came with, because his got it all. In fact, he's already got it mounted. I'll be taking it off so I can paint the back part. But what I did was I went ahead and painted this the same color. It would probably need another couple coats because you can kind of see some of the gray from the primer. So it'd probably take another couple coats, but this isn't the final product, so I don't care. But this gives me something that I can use very well for these color trials, and I wanted to see how well this color comes across. So I'm thinking it's going to be this color here is the one that I'm going to probably be going with. It could be that one, but that one seems a little bit light. So what I did was uh, I had my colors here. These are the colors that I was going off of, and this is the order that I did them in. Actually, I did them in this order, right? So this is the order I did them in. I think this one is probably too light, and that one is probably about right. Now the good thing is, if this one ends up being a bit too dark, um, we can lighten it up later. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Now, if it's a bit too light, then we're going to have an issue, but I'm just going to have to go with it and see what happens. Now, the unfortunate thing is I don't have a lot of this one. This is RAL Gray Flat. I don't know what RAL Gray Flat is, but it came with my airbrush. It's an acrylic. Now, whether or not I can get this color again, I don't know. Um, but I had this other color, and this was um, the dark gall gray. Now, I've used this a lot, so much so that there's hardly any paint in here, and I haven't been able to find a replacement for that one yet. So what I'm going to do is I'll get my trusty airbrush hooked up, and then we're going to paint this here. Now, I'm going to have to be pretty careful with how I do that, but the good news is the paint that I painted on here is a lacquer. And so because of that, when I paint this on, if I need to clean it off, I'll be able to clean it off pretty easily, at least if I do it right away. So I can kind of mess up a little bit if I want to, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this part here. I'm going to try to leave this light color. I thought about um, masking it, but I didn't really want to have the line. So I'm just going to try to paint as closely to that as I can and get that all painted up. So let's go ahead and go over to the paint booth and get that taken care of, and then we can move on. Because I want to be able to control this thing, I'm going to hold it with my hand. I'd like to hold it like this because I'd have better control this way, but I don't have a good way of doing that. I don't know. Maybe I can do it this way. So let's just try it and see what happens, right? We got our airbrush here, and since I tore this down and everything, I'm just going to check my pressure and everything. So we've got some pretty good control there, which I'm happy about, because I feel like we're going to need it. Okay, so let's make sure we're in camera here. All right, here we go. So I'm going to turn it away from the... Get some paint flowing here. There we go. So you can see that already. Maybe. The light kind of sucks. I can see it great, but you guys probably can't. And the good part is, since this is the Falcon we're talking about, again, it does not have to be perfect. So if we get a little kind of cross-contamination or anything like that, it's no harm, no foul, really. We can just fix it. I'm going to say that's nearly 100%. Yeah. See, that's pretty good. So what I'll do is I'll take this back and wipe off this little bit of air there. Get myself a paper towel so I can wipe that little part off in the middle, and we'll go from there. So, but first I have to take care of this paint, otherwise it's gonna, well, I can kind of take care of that. Let me get something to wipe that off because I want it taken care of right away. Alright, so I have my friendly neighborhood alcohol here, and I would think alcohol should be enough to be able to take it off. We're gonna see. It is taking it off. So it'd probably be a good spot to use a pipe cleaner for something like this. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but here we go. So, of course, you can't really see it. So we'll take this back over and we'll have a look at it on the workbench. All right, here we are. So We have painted it. We've cleaned up the edge a little bit. So you can still see a little bit of the gray, which is fine. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It is the Millennium Falcon. We're just wanting to get more of a sense of the Falcon. So any little imperfections is fine with me. So much so that one of the tidbits of advice that I had seen from a master model builder. His name is Steve Dymszo, and he's actually the one responsible for getting all the pictures that I kind of showed you that was being used as a reference. He took all of those pictures, as well as he was the one, he originally did it for, was it Master Replicas or something like that? And he basically, it wasn't a laser, but he used, and I've talked about this before. He used like this light grid or something, and it mapped out the entire Falcon. It was him that had done all that and had built the master replicas. So I had talked about him clear back in the beginning, but and you don't really see it too much on here. But he said that you should not like smooth out any of the mold lines or anything like that. If it's on there, he said leave it there because they didn't do it on their model. They left all those things on there. So that's what I'm going to do. I did it all. I cleaned it all up on the interior, mostly because the interior is more of a gives you a feel for what the interior is like. It's not a scale replica of what the interior actually was. So we're just going to go with something that is a representation. And I think that works out really, really well. And I'm pretty happy with how that came out. I'm not going to complain. I was able to clean enough of it off that it looks good to me. I'll be pretty happy with that. And so there we go. There's that. Now for something completely different. So we've got this piece here. And what I'm going to do is got some older pieces of, or not pieces, but older blades here. So the recommendation to do this is to use an older blade that's not as sharp as a new blade. Not that this is like a new blade, but it's still fairly sharp. So that one still feels fairly sharp. This one, maybe not so much. I mean, it's still sharp. It's a freaking razor. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one. What we're going to do is we'll just move that over here. We're going to put this one back in. And we're going to try not to slice the crap out of ourselves. And we're going to cut this piece out. So before I do this, I should probably, they recommend getting a hammer and a screwdriver because after you've gone through this a couple times, you take a hammer and a screwdriver and you just like pick a spot and you just start tapping it and break it loose. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run around this edge a few times to try to cut through the glue, and then we'll kind of go from there. There we go. We have it out. So obviously this will need to get cleaned up a little bit. And then I have to clean this part up, obviously. So this part I will do off camera. You don't want to watch me sanding this and cleaning all this up. But I'll do all this part off camera. And I'll also have to take that nub off because if I don't, you can see here. Let me turn this so you can actually, there we go, like that. So you can see here that it's, that's where the nub goes, this nub here. So I have to take that off so that way I can turn it correctly. So this is how it was sitting in here, right? What we need to do is actually turn it so it's sitting more like that. So We're not turning it far, right? We're turning it just a few degrees. But when we get done, this will make Gary a lot happier. So we'll see you when we get back with that and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, so we've got it all cleaned up. Let's go ahead and get it attached, and we'll kind of go from there. So really, there's not a lot of mating surface here. So the glue is, I mean, there's a very small surface. I'll hold this up for you here in a minute. So you can kind of see this very slight ridge. Like here, you can kind of make it out a little bit, but it's very small. So again, this is how it was, like this, and this is how it needs to be, like that. So we're just going to get it glued into place and see what happens. Oh, this is going to be a tad bit nerve-wracking, so... All right, there we go. That is more in line with the way it was supposed to be from the beginning. So, we've accomplished a lot. And this will be my 5th micro brush because I use micro brushes on painting my trial piece. So, we're getting into the outside sections, and that means it's going to start looking potentially more like the Falcon. So the interior was very reminiscent and all that kind of stuff. But once we get to the exterior, obviously that's where things really start to pop. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I have to admit it was a tad bit stressful just trying to figure out what colors these need to be and all that kind of stuff and finding the right images. I was a little bit stressed about this, but it came out great. I can't complain. So yeah, I can't or I won't, whatever, however you want to say it. But so that's taken care of. That's one thing off of the list of off-camera work. And yeah, so I'm gonna call it there. Thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, and may the force be with you always.